Hello everybody, this is the first summer reading vodcast of 2011. This one's going to be a little bit boring, but I think it's a little bit different as well from the other vodcasts that will happen during the summer. This is the end of my reading season for getting ready for the IB exams. So you guys all know that I get a bunch of papers from other schools, but I also get a book list from them. So I find out what novels they've been reading, and I just get up to date. So the idea is that I read the novels. Obviously, if I've never read them before, I read them. But also there are a few novels that I just haven't read in years. So I have to pick those up and get reacquainted with the books. It's a funny process because there are times when I say, oh, I don't have to reread that. I've read it recently or it's fresh in my memory. But my rereading makes me realize that I think every time we read, we're influenced by the stage we're at in our reading lives, and things may stick with us. We might have certain memories of books, but our rereading makes us realize that because of that time in our life, we were focused on a particular aspect in the book. I think it really hit home when I reread Farewell to Arms, because it was one of my favorite books when I was in high school, and I think I reread it in college, and then I started marking papers on it and realizing that I had to go back. I had to go back and reread, and I think my adult reading of it is a little bit different from the reading I had before, but I enjoyed it. I also read Tess of the D'Urbervilles for this session, and I have to say that I know a lot of people love Hardy, and it's a big novel, late 1800s, and I know Hardy himself was seen as kind of championing women in the book, it really taking a stance against the prevailing morals of the time. But I felt that reading it now in the 21st century, even the presumptions he was making, or even though he was being somewhat revolutionary for the time and supporting Tess and supporting women who were in this difficult situation, I felt that reading it from now, he was making assumptions that were somewhat offensive for contemporary society, and it really made me stop and think about, why do we read novels like the novels of Thomas Hardy? Is it because of their place in literary history? Is it because we want to examine how someone stood in relation to society at a particular time? Are we reading it just for the story? Because frankly, if we're reading it just for the story, I want to pick up something written recently, perhaps. During this session, I also read Wuthering Heights, which in a way I enjoyed more than Tess of the D'Urbervilles because I felt like at heart it is just a story. This is a love story over time, and it wasn't trying to be something else. Although I have to go back to Tess of the D'Urbervilles and say that I did enjoy the descriptions of the countryside and the way he really managed to describe a natural setting in a very sensual way that was reflecting on what was going on with the characters in the novel. Reread Beloved. It was interesting and fun to reread because I think sometimes I mix up the different Toni Morrison books that I've read over the years. So Beloved by Toni Morrison, I recommend it. 10th graders who read The Bluest Eye. And what else? Oh, The Sound and the Fury by Faulkner that I'm reading now. And it's pretty much the last book that I have to read to prepare myself for this year's IB exams. In years past, I've had 13, 14 books that I've had to read. So I get that notification in February or March, and then spend some time reading and rereading to get ready for the IB exams. Next summer reading vodcast will be a little bit more related to my personal reading and what I plan on reading this summer. So I hope you tune in to this first vodcast and get ready for the more exciting vodcasts to come.